When the security and integrity of a nation is threatened, it is time for action, courage, and sacrifice. What inspires the fighting forces is the people's unity which they defend. This spirit is symbolized by the national flag. Describing this emotional bond, a poet had said, "A moth-eaten rag on a worm-eaten pole. It does not look likely to stir a man's soul. 'Tis the deeds that were done neath the moth-eaten rag, when the pole was the staff and the rag was a flag." The beginning of civilization depended on the use of symbols. Dhwajas or flags are said to have been used even in the epic age of mythology. Since antiquity, emblems or seals were used by clans and tribes to assert their collective identity. In time, dhwajas, nishans or flags came to be used by kings and princes to identify their kingdoms. The Guptas, the great Mauryan Emperor Ashok, the Cholas, the Pandyas, the Chalukyas, the Rajputs and the Mughals. In medieval India, flags had already been in common use for many centuries. During the reign of Shivaji, we find that flags were used by his navy also. In the 17th century, the British brought the Union Jack, which was to fly over India for nearly 2 centuries. In 1857, the people of many kingdoms brought their flags together to fight India's first war of independence. National awakening after 1857 led to the birth of the freedom movement. Even though the Indian National Congress came into being in 1885, it had no flag. Most records indicate that the first attempt to create a national flag was at Parsi Bagan Square in Calcutta in 1906. A red, yellow and green flag. It is said that the flag had 8 lotuses, the sun and the moon, with Vande Mataram written across the middle strip. In 1907, Bhikaiji Cama and her revolutionary compatriots in exile unfurled a flag with similar colors at the World Socialist Congress in Stuttgart, Germany. However, this flag was never used in India. When the Home Rule League was active under Tilak and Annie Besant, she designed this flag of red and green stripes with the Union Jack, Saptarishi and crescent moon. The Union Jack is shown on the flag because at that time, Indian leaders still thought of a free India as part of the British Commonwealth. The flag was hoisted during the 1917 Congress in Calcutta under the presidency of Annie Besant. The inclusion of the Union Jack was unacceptable to a majority of the people, and the flag was never used again. At the end of the First World War, when the Khilafat movement began, Gandhiji supported it wholeheartedly by launching India's first non-cooperation movement. Flags were prominent in support of the Turkish Khalifa of Islam. In 1921, when the All India Congress Committee met at Bezvada, P. Venkaiah, a young man from Andhra, designed a flag and showed it to Gandhiji. The flag had 2 colors, red and green. Gandhiji and Lala Hansraj of Jalandhar suggested the addition of a white strip to symbolize purity and the charkha to symbolize self-reliance. Although officially it was not adopted by the Congress, the flag had Gandhiji's blessings. It was a dominant source of inspiration during the non-cooperation movement. Hundreds of thousands of full-sized and miniature flags were made and distributed all over the country. The British authorities were alarmed at the immense popularity of this flag, which stood for freedom. The Secretary of State asked for daily reports pertaining to flag hoisting. Orders were issued prohibiting its use anywhere. When the use of the flag was forbidden in Nagpur, it was decided to launch a flag satyagraha. To assert the people's rights to carry the symbol of their aspirations, Jamnalal Bajaj led a flag satyagraha in Nagpur. Volunteers from all over India came to support the movement. Bajaj and over 800 of his companions were arrested. This suppression had the opposite effect to what the British intended. A National Flag Day was declared for the 18th of July 1923. When the government was faced with a nationwide determination, it had to relent, and flags continued to fly. Every Congress session began with a salutation to the flag. When the All-British Simon Commission came from England in 1928 to suggest the so-called reforms, no Indian was consulted. People rallied under the flag and with one voice asked Simon to go back. The patriots suffered beatings, arrests and torture, but kept the flag flying. This phase of history united the people, and the Calcutta Congress of 1928 was witnessed by a sea of humanity. Crowds such as these had never been seen before. The 1929 Congress met on the banks of the Ravi in Lahore. On the 29th of December, Jawaharlal Nehru unfurled the national flag and gave a call for Purna Swaraj, complete independence. He asked every Indian to observe the 26th of January 1930 as Independence Day. On that day, people all over the country unfurled the flag and took a pledge to fight for freedom. Now, for the first time, the Congress appointed a committee for the designing of a national flag. A saffron flag with a charkha was recommended, but it was unacceptable to the Congress. In 1931, the Karachi Congress resolved to adopt this tricolor of saffron, white and green with a charkha on the middle strip as a national flag. It became immensely popular. Kamla and Jawaharlal Nehru joined in the mass enthusiasm. In 1931, the Congress had authorized Gandhiji to be its sole representative at the second Roundtable Conference in London. Gandhiji came back with empty hands. When the Mahatma was away, the British had promulgated an emergency powers ordinance in UP and the Northwest Frontier Province. The answer to this was the launching of a non-cooperation movement by Gandhiji. Once again, the flag became a symbol of defiance, and once again, the police beat up men, women, and children. 66,000 people were arrested, among them 5,000 women and children. Secretary of State Samuel Hoare said, "We are determined to take every action in our power to suppress this challenge to our authority." But whenever the flag was pulled down, it was bravely hoisted again. Exemplary deeds of courage were shown by Bulusu Sambamurthy and Durgabai of Andhra, Tirupur Kumaran of Tamil Nadu, and hundreds of others. In 1935, an act was passed providing for a federal form of government at the center, with limited powers for the elected provincial governments. The Congress decided to fight the elections. When the Congress assumed office in 7 provinces, its flag flew from every housetop. For the first time, hoisting of the tricolor on municipal buildings was not considered a crime. With Sardar Patel's intervention, the Maharaja of Mysore allowed the hoisting of the national flag in the state. At the 1938 Congress at Haripura in Gujarat, 51 bullock carts bedecked with flags symbolized the 51st Congress. The Congress session began with the unfurling of the flag by President Subhash Chandra Bose. In 1939, at Tripuri in the central provinces, 52 elephants carried pictures of all the past presidents and flags to the opening of the 52nd Congress. When the Second World War broke out, the British dragged India into the war without consulting her elected provincial ministries. The Congress ministries resigned in protest. Gandhiji declared that India will support the Allies in the fight against fascism only as a free and equal partner. This was not agreed to. Sir Stafford Cripps came to negotiate with Indian leaders for a political settlement. The negotiations broke down. On the 8th of August 1942, the Congress asked the British to quit India. All national leaders were imprisoned. The leaderless people faced batons and bullets. But how do you imprison a flag, the soul of a people? Flying of the flag was made a crime, inviting 2 years' imprisonment. The people defied the orders and organized peaceful flag-hoisting demonstrations. In Patna, students tried to hoist the flag atop the council hall. 7 were shot dead. Kanaklata of Assam was killed while hoisting the flag on the collectorate. In Midnapur, Bengal, Matangini Hazra was shot in the leg, but continued to limp forward with the flag. She was then shot in the head and fell dead, still clutching the flag. 1943, the Indian National Army, led by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, adopted this flag as India's national flag. They occupied Maurang Kangla in Manipur and hoisted the national flag. In the same year, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose visited the cellular jail in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. He hoisted the flag of Free India at Port Blair. After the war, the tricolour greeted Indian leaders at Shimla as they came to negotiate the transfer of power. The Constituent Assembly of India was convened in New Delhi to frame Free India's constitution. The Assembly received a large number of designs and suggestions for Free India's national flag. When a design was finally agreed upon, Jawaharlal Nehru moved a resolution on the 22nd of July 1947.
That the national flag of India shall be a horizontal tricolour of deep saffron, kesari, white and dark green in equal proportion. In the center of the white band, there shall be a wheel in navy blue to represent the charkha. There is a slight variation in this flag from the one many of us have used during these past years. The colors are the same. In the white, there was the symbol of the charkha, which symbolized the common man in India, which symbolized the masses, the people, which symbolized their industry, which came to us from the message which Mahatma Gandhi had delivered to the country. This particular charkha symbol has been slightly varied in this flag because, normally speaking, the symbol on one side of it of the flag should be exactly the same as on the other side. The design of the wheel shall be that of the wheel chakra which appears on the basis of the statue of Ashoka. That wheel is a symbol of India's ancient culture. It's a symbol of many things that India has stood for.
The British flag was finally replaced by the national flag of Free India. At the United Nations headquarters at Lake Success, the Indian tricolour found its rightful place in the Committee of Free Nations. The flag is a source of inspiration, of motivation, of national pride, the finest symbol of the vision we have of our country. In the words of Dr. Radhakrishnan,
the flag links up the past and the present. It is the legacy bequeathed to us by the architects of our liberty. Truth, satya, dharma, virtue, these ought to be the controlling principles of all those who work under this flag.